Well, hey friends, welcome back. We are checking back in on my Design-A-Flat project. So in the last video, I showed you how I use Design-A-Flat to prep for clients, and it was really, really fun. And a bunch of you asked to see the finished product, so I thought it might be great to take you along. And I'm gonna show you what happened with all those cute little flats. Also, I had a surprise during this installation, and I will show you that as well. And pardon any goofiness because it has been a long day and we've already clocked 38 pots today. So without much further ado, let's dive on in. We're gonna kick it off with this first container arrangement that I did in the flat. And this was what I call a collar planting. So it's when we have more, I use this more when we have like a ball or a centerpiece, and you can see the container from all sides. So this is a beautiful walkway with tons of benches. There is a business on the back side, and so I always like to make sure I get them a little something to look at, but we went really simple. We did a full replacement of the centerpiece, and so when I do that, it's a lot of like digging out roots and getting things reestablished and amending. I don't take out all of the soil, by the way. I simply recharge it, and I always do that with a little extra potting soil. I prefer potting soil that has more of a composty consistency, and then I hit it with a bunch of biotone so I get those roots off to a really great start. Next, we come in with our collar elements. This is where I use that beautiful chocolateless macchia and this lipstick impatience. And this is a very shady situation. We do get some really beautiful late day sun, as you can see. It's like so yummy. But I repeated 3 chocolateless macchia and 3, this is the Beaconsfield Impatience in the color lipstick. And you're gonna notice I actually have quite a bit of space here. I want this collar planting to really fluff out. I expect my Impatience to double in size. I expect this giant chocolateless macchia to also double in size. These are summer containers, so they are naturally gonna be more voluptuous. Okay, I've got one more exactly like this, but I wanna take you on to my next container arrangement. Okay, friends, second container. This one is a super showstopper. This is my Chameleia container. This was the second one that we curated in the previous video. Now, the things that did not change. My Chameleia, first and foremost, this is a beautiful Sasangua Camellia that blooms like hot pink in the winter. And then underplanted, we had this Fatsia spider's web. It's maturing beautifully. It looks so good. And the ivy is in perfect form. This is an ivy I use all the time. It's called Golden Child. I just find that this particular ivy, it always looks glossy and fresh, and that's what I want for this property. Okay, I'm now gonna take you in a little bit closer and I'm gonna show you some detail because I want you to see a couple of the alterations that I made here and how it's coming together. So right here, I wanna take you in close to show you a couple of things. So down here, do you see all the little clippy nubs here? This was a conscious decision on my part because I really wanted this Fatsia spider's web to take off. I would say she's about 18 inches tall at this point, and I wanted this to be a really strong mid layer. The other thing I've done is you're gonna notice I'm starting to prune this Chameleia up. And the reason is I want this to be more of a tree form instead of a big blobby shrub. Okay, in here you're gonna notice I've brought in the chocolateless macchia. I actually wanna come in here and deadhead a few of these things. Impatience, whenever you transplant them, they can look a bit ratty for like the first minute that you transplant it because the petals are so delicate, but look, as soon as it's in the ground, look at that, pure perfection. So this one is violet. This one over here is coral. And I wanted to play with these 2 different colors to kind of marry through some different elements that I'm bringing in, some different colors, because this is my palette. My palette is deep violet. It is a vibrant coral. And then we have that lipstick color coming through again. Check this out. I've echoed it over here using the Surefire Rose Begonia. The other thing here is you're gonna notice I'm using this deep, waxy leaf as such a beautiful contrast against the Fatsia. And then the other thing this does as it pulls through my chocolate Macchia. I mean, is this like so freaking gorgeous? So there we are. And you're gonna notice I put this just big kahuna pot right here because this is kind of like the corridor where you come from that front seating area down here, and then you turn as it opens towards this awesome courtyard. Friends, next planter is the one that we brought in the new centerpiece for. This centerpiece was like, she was dead. It was time for something new. This is a Sarcopa Rousophogia. It's beautiful because it blooms in the winter, and you know me, I love seasonal interest, all the seasons. I want to cover them all. But what we did here is we introduced some things that we used in previous containers, and also we brought in a few new toys to play with. So first and foremost, let's talk mid-layer. I have this incredible Rockapolco double impatience. What I love about this is it adds like an unexpected sweetness to the arrangement because this is a very vibrant arrangement, but I think having a little rosette in there is super duper fun. I've also brought in an incredible coleus. I think the variegation really helps it shine, and I like that whenever I do a solid kind of centerpiece, I like to bring in variegation to break up those elements, especially because we're doing like a variegation sandwich, if you will. We have a straight leaf, and I'm breaking it up with that vibrancy. Now, I want to show you something that I did here because this brings up, do you remember at the very end of that video how I packed a tray of texture bits? Well, here we are, because when I placed this, it still felt like it needed a little something. And so what I decided to do is, instead of using 3 of my Lysimachia, the golden creeping Jenny, I swapped it out for this sedum, lemon coral sedum. And I don't know why, but just swapping this one element added back in so much texture. Because when I looked at it, I was like, gosh, all of my leaves are so round. I needed some edge in there. So lemon coral sedum totally did the trick. The other thing I did was, do you see this gorgeous Magadi blue lobelia? I decided, you know what? I want a pop of cool in here. And so I brought in this other texture bit that was in my tray. Okay. Now, when I got to this point, I now started thinking in my brain, I've just introduced a shot of vibrant blue, which I knew I would love because it echoes a lot of the artwork and the street art around here. I now started thinking, okay, I got to put this in the back of my mind because I now need to bring blue into another pot here to make it work. But I do think this is like some good special sauce. Okay. Let's take you to the next container because I really love this one. So now it's time for my gorgeous fern spray container. This is a fern spray cypress, botanical name Chameleia. By the way, you don't need to know all the botanical names. I just like, in my brain, in my industry, sometimes we go with botanical, but common is totally fine. And also if you screw it up, that's totally fine too. But here's where we are at. I brought in, this is gonna become so voluptuous, it's gonna be crazy. Someone in my comments had asked about this particular coleus. This is a coleus called Gaze Delight. It is lovely. It's a bit more purpley right now, probably because we are still getting some chilly nighttime temps, but it does get really bright limey color. I've got one in the front here, and then I actually have 2 on the back because I want some like fullness and some drama coming out the back. Okay, next, we brought in 2 Surefire Rose Begonias. These suckers are gonna get big. They're gonna drape out. It's gonna be so sensational. And then I brought in kind of like a whole bunch of trailers, and I used some of my all-time favorites. First of all, we have this autumnal fuchsia. It just brings all of the colors together. It is so fun, and I won't be shocked if these eventually almost reach the floor because they are that just an incredible grower. And then right in the middle here, this is a sweet potato vine called Blackie, and I love it. It has a much different leaf shape. It's a little bit more, I don't even know how you would describe it. I'll bring you in close. I'll show it to you. And then off the back here, because you know we do have this business behind, we're gonna have the 2 coleus kind of giving a nice drama moment back here. And then I also tucked an autumnal fuchsia coming off the back. Oh, I almost forgot. I put a little hidden surprise in here. I didn't have an extra Selaginella, and so I just ripped the 4-inch I had in half. I tucked half of it here and half of it over on this side, just because I thought, kind of like, if someone was sitting here, it's such a cool little textural bit that maybe you wouldn't see if you were just passing by. But if you're taking a seat and enjoying the day and you get a little extra kind of like fun view here, I don't know, makes my heart sing. So there we are, next container. So good. Okay, next container is my fat cheddar. This is actually a fat cheddar called Angiostar, and I think I actually bought this one from Monrovia. They grow beautiful fat cheddaras. Okay, so what I did again is, this was the one that I actually kind of surprised myself. I thought I would have gone with a more simple mid-story, but I ended up going with like variegation on variegation. I wanted to bring this coleus back in one more time, because remember how when we're designing and we're looking at all of our bevy of containers that are in each one of our flats, we want to make sure that we have little pieces that are jumping from one container to another. Well, I only had one other container that featured this coleus, and so immediately I was like, okay, we got to bring this in somewhere else to tie our story together. And by the way, when you're doing containers, it's really important to kind of like reference back to the tag. And so to give you an idea of what we're working with, my coleus is going to end up probably right around in here. My impatience is going to be probably, I would say, maybe 10 inches. So think 18, 10 inches, and then a beautiful trailing moment. And also these impatiens will keep bushing out and bushing out, which is just wonderful in my opinion. I've also gone in and used 2 different impatiens. We used impatient Beaconsfield Violet as well as Coral. And then the ivy in this one, the Golden Child, again, didn't look as awesome as the Chameleia pot, but this is under a cover, and so probably it didn't get hit with as much natural rainwater, but it still looked fantastic. And so for this one, I just decided to go with really big bands of statements. So big statement in the middle, big statement band of coleus, another big statement band of impatiens, and then a trio of trailers using the existing Golden Child Ivy as well as Creeping Jenny, the Golden Creeping Jenny. Oh, the other thing is, unlike a traditional ivy, the fat cheddar does need staking to be upright. And it's also not gonna like grab onto something like with little root hairs. And so I did put an additional support in here because it had outgrown last year's support system. And I did give it a bit of a haircut. I took it down a little bit because I want to encourage this little tree ivy to bush on out. So, gorgeous container, all done. Now, that actually summarizes all of the containers I prepped for. However, I am a human being, and even though I went back to my pictures, I went back to my notes, I literally completely forgot a single container. So, what I want to show you, before I left the shop, I thought to myself, I'm just going to grab a couple things just in case. And so I filled a second flat of texture bits, and I want to show you what I created. Friends, welcome to my mistake. As together as I try to be, there will always be times where I am surprised by something, or maybe when I'm working really fast, sometimes I need to like come up with something like that. Well, this is the container that time forgot. Literally, I went through all of my site photos before doing my shopping. I even saw this picture, the picture of this plant, and I totally spaced it. So this is an Akuba. I believe this one is called Gold Dust. Akubas, they can go a little bit in the sun, but I find Akubas thrive in the shade, especially when they have all of this modeling to the leaf. And I'm bringing in this modeling because it really echoes that, that fat cheddar that I used as well. All right, now, you are never going to believe it, but almost all of these are random texture bits that I just like tucked in a tray and brought with me. First and foremost, in the Chameleia pot that I showed you, I actually bought 3 of these Surefire Rose begonias, but I felt like that last one at the back of the pot it really didn't do anything for it. So I had an extra one. Next, these little mini-me chartreuse coleuses, these were in my texture pack that I had already loaded into the van. Now, do you remember me bringing in the blue? This, I knew immediately, was such a perfect opportunity to bring another shot of blue into this arrangement. The other container that I used blue in is 1, 2, 3. It's the third one over, so like the eye travels really, really well. Sweet potato vine, Blackie. This is also from my pile of texture bits. The only thing new in here, and I don't even know why I grabbed it, but we have this cordyline. I can't even remember the name of it, but I just thought it was so cute. It was so bright pink. And I just was like, you know, on the off chance, because we drive all of our properties before we install to make sure we have proper centerpieces. I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna need this, but she's cute. She's got a stripe of pink. She goes with the theme. And so here you are. Literally, I created a container with leftovers and that singular flat of texture bits. And I cannot emphasize enough, texture is king. So friends, thank you for coming along on another garden container adventure with me. And I think the moral of the story, if I can think of a few little things that are takeaways that I would love to share with you, is number one, texture is king. And with literally a flat of texture, you can create almost anything. Number two, this is the power of a super tight color story. I know the intensity of the pinks. I know the corals I'm bringing in. I know the deep violets and the saturated blues I'm bringing in. And because I kept to that really tight texture forward palette, I could literally create a random container on the fly using everything that I brought and one little surprise. So thank you so much for coming along. I'm going to see you in the next one. And in the meantime, say hello to your garden for me.